So Mitch McConnell took a cheap shot at Bernie Sanders here. He was at a Chamber of Commerce event, which, of course, I mean, that's like, of course Mitch McConnell is there. Mitch McConnell probably sleeps at the Chamber of Commerce. He is one of the most corrupt members of the Senate. So let's take a look at what he said, and then we'll break it down.
You know, think about it, a football field, and the American public is given a closely divided Congress. I think the message is, see what you can accomplish between the 40-yard line, things you can actually agree on that are worth doing, maybe not earth-shaking, but worth doing. But you shouldn't be able to run the ball all the way in the end zone on the other side when it's pretty close. They looked at a 50-50 Senate, a couple of seat majority in the House, and declared they had a mandate for Bernie Sanders' vision of America. I don't think so. And that's why they've stalled out, and I think that's why they're unpopular.
The reason why Democrats have stalled out and are unpopular is because of Bernie Sanders' agenda. We know, as a matter of fact, that is not true. First of all, Bernie Sanders routinely ranks as the most popular politician in America, and it's not even close. And I think Mitch McConnell ranks towards the bottom of that list, by the way. So there's that fact, but I have more facts for you. So take a look at this chart with some polling data on it. I've showed you guys this before. Now, granted, this is old. This is from 2016. But since then, the numbers, if anything, have moved more in a more favorable direction for Bernie's ideas. But look at this. Americans are intrigued by a political revolution. Quote, in the next decade, a political revolution might be necessary to redistribute money from the wealthiest Americans to the middle class. Strongly or somewhat agree. Overall, 54% of the country. Independents, 51% agree. People who didn't vote in 2012, 58% agree. Tea Party supporters, even 55% of Tea Party supporters believe in redistribution of wealth from the rich to the middle class. And then the only group that's against it is seniors. Let me show you the next chart. Much of Bernie Sanders' agenda polls well. Should we raise taxes on the wealthy? 73% strongly or somewhat support. Raise taxes on big corporations. 66% strongly or somewhat support. Single-payer healthcare, 55% strongly or somewhat support. Free college, 59% strongly or somewhat support. Now, again, this poll is old. It's from 2016. But I will say the reason why I show you it is because it's one of the only ones I've ever seen that does the amalgamation of like, here are like a bunch of his key ideas, and so what do you think about them? But if you look at new polling and you take the individual issues, you'll see they've either stayed roughly the same or, in some instances, the support has gone up. I mean, here's just one example. There's one left-wing idea. This wasn't part of Bernie's platform, but the idea of UBI, there was a time in the middle of the pandemic when that polled over 50%. So people are ready for this. People are ready for this. So the idea, Mitch, that the real problem with the Democrats is Bernie Sanders' agenda. No, the problem with the Democrats is they didn't do Bernie Sanders' agenda. If they did Bernie Sanders' agenda, Biden would have poll numbers like FDR did. And I don't know if you know this, but FDR won the presidency 4 times. There was a time when like Democrats controlled 80% of Congress because FDR was so damn popular. That's what happens when you do the New Deal. That's what happens when you give people a taste of social democracy. That's what happens when the government looks out for the material well-being of the population. So he gets it exactly backwards. Democrats are unpopular because of Bernie's agenda. They're not doing any of Bernie's agenda. It can't be why they're unpopular. They're not doing any of Bernie's agenda. When was Joe Biden his most popular? He had an approval rating of like 52% or 54%, something in that ballpark. It was when he cut $1,400 checks to everybody. That's when he was his most popular. So that is case in point that the more you go in the direction of Bernie's ideas, the more popular you become. So he couldn't be more wrong. Now, the other thing that annoys me is what he says at the beginning. He basically says, when Congress is split, as it is right now, like you have to compromise, and the American people want that compromise. So in other words, the argument is, Democrats do not have a mandate. They did not have a mandate, and they do not have a mandate to do their agenda. Now, notice something. Whenever a Republican wins, McConnell says, we have a mandate. Like, we have a mandate to do our ideas. You can get out of the way. When a Democrat wins, you don't have a mandate. You need to compromise. Well, why doesn't it work the same way with both parties? Why wouldn't you say, when Republicans win, hey, we we're going to compromise because that's what we do. We compromise because it's split. Congress is split. Even though we won, it's still split. So let's compromise. He doesn't do that. McConnell is the clearest example of somebody who's all about just will to power, because it's not about ideological consistency. It's not about having a standard and upholding it as objectively as possible. He just flips on a dime. I mean, whenever Republicans are in power, he's like, we got to get rid of, the filibuster, for example. They got rid of the filibuster for Supreme Court appointments under McConnell. And then when the Democrats are in power, they're like, oh, shit, we should have the filibuster option. We need to be able to block the Democrats from putting these people on the court. Like, this is who this guy is. There's no standards. There's no criteria that he upholds. I mean, this is the guy who blocked, what did he do? He blocked Merrick Garland for like a whole year. Like an entire year, he blocked Merrick Garland. It broke the record for the amount of time that they didn't even have a hearing on him. And then he was asked, well, what happens in the final year of Trump's presidency if he gets to appoint somebody? What did McConnell say? Oh, we're gonna appoint him. Wait, you made up a fake rule that in the last year you don't get to appoint him, and now you're saying in the last year for Trump, yeah, I'll appoint him. He doesn't care about the hypocrisy. He's just like, hypocrisy is irrelevant. I care about winning. I mean, this is a guy, he wants to talk about we're split and we should compromise. This is the guy who broke the filibuster record against Obama. He broke the filibuster record against Obama. And remember, Obama is a guy, by his own description, he says, if I was around in the 1980s, I'd be a moderate Republican. And he broke the filibuster record against that guy. A guy who cut small business taxes. That's supposed to be a conservative idea. A guy who did Obamacare, which is an idea that originally came from the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank. This is who Mitch McConnell is. But needlessly, potshot at Bernie, savaging Bernie. Look, I genuinely don't know. I'll ask you guys. Do you think McConnell knows Bernie's ideas are popular, and so he says this just as a political ploy to try to get the Democrats to never go down that path? Or is he just in that conventional wisdom DC bubble, and he's so brainwashed that he genuinely thinks, no, Bernie's ideas are unpopular? I tend to think it's the latter. I do. I tend to think it's the latter, because when you're in DC and every voice in your ear is like ruthlessly mocking the idea of universal health care or free college, you start to think, well, yeah, everybody believes this. Like the American people are on the same page as me. But they're not. It's not even close. So, and of course, Democrats buy into that's the crazy thing. What Mitch McConnell just said here is dead wrong. It is factually untrue. And I guarantee you, this is the majority opinion among establishment Democrats, among corporate Democrats. They agree with McConnell. They think, oh no, Biden went too far left and he was too ambitious. That's the problem. Biden should be more moderate. He should be more like the Republicans. Then we'd be in a much better situation. It's hell world, man. It's hell world we live in. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.